Welcome to We Understood That Reference. You know, one recent superhero film that seems to get lost in the crowd is Shazam. So today I thought we should talk about it. I'm Clayburn.
And I'm Nikhil.
So I really enjoyed Shazam. I had no idea what to expect going into it. And you and I watched it together when it came out. And I'm surprised it didn't get more attention. It was really good.
It was like a change of pace for DC tonally, and it was just like a fun movie.
Yeah, without spoilers, how would you describe Shazam?
Ooh. It's like that old movie Big meets a superhero.
I guess, the trailers probably made it pretty obvious. The big premise is a little kid becomes a grown-up superhero.
Yeah, right, pretty much.
Just imagine Big as a guy with superpowers, and it's pretty much that.
Oh, one of the things I liked about it was it kind of had that like 90s feel to it. It reminded me of like the kids movies that we saw when we were younger.
Yeah, it was a nice change, I think, from the normal tone, especially in the DC universe, because DC has been a lot more gritty, I guess, and realistic and adult and all of that.
Yeah, so the tone was totally different. It was lighter, it was fun, it was a little bit more, like less self-serious than a lot of the other movies.
Yeah. Would you say, though, that it's a kid's film?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely family friendly. And then, of course, the main character and characters in it are a group of children.
Right.
But to me, it did have a lot of, I think, kind of adult appeal to it, especially, I think, in terms of the humor that was kind of targeted at superhero movies. There was a lot of kind of making fun of typical superhero cliches.
That's true. Yeah. Did they make fun of the superhero landing?
My favorite was them yelling at each other from far away while flying around in space, in the air, basically. And he's like, the villain's giving his great speech, and then he's like, "What are you saying? I can't hear you." Yeah, that was a good one. I guess just in case, we'll go ahead and say spoilers from here on out. So if we want to mention anything, I guess it was a fairly popular movie. I think pretty successful, but I'm sure there's still a lot of people who skipped it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It didn't do. It was like the Ant-Man of DC. Yeah,
except in so much as Shazam almost seemed entirely disconnected, right? Like going into it, I wasn't really sure, is this fit into DC, the DCEU, or what? They didn't really promote it much as like a DC property, no connection to the rest of the universe. And then even watching it, especially, with the I guess it was like an end credit scene, right? Where you finally do have Superman show up in the film, but he's missing his head. You don't get to see who Superman is, which makes it seem like even the production team was like, we're not gonna bother getting the actual Superman to show up here. So it's almost like it felt like DC kind of disowned it.
No, they actually tried. They tried like really hard to get Henry Cavill to come back in the role, but that was, I think, in between his like contract negotiations.
Yeah,
and he really should have come in for the day and then the
cameo. It was more than just a mustache issue.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess that makes it a little better, but it does seem, just in terms of marketing and the rest of the film too, obviously didn't really have. I think there was a few references here and there to the fact that like Superman and Batman exists and these characters know about them in their universe, but it didn't have any other connection to it. So when that happened, then it just sort of seemed like, this is like a the redheaded stepchild of the DCEU or something. They didn't even want to bother getting the actual Superman. In which case, why did it have to be Superman? I guess they could have rewritten it probably and made it to be Batman as his hero, or the Green Lantern, and brought back Ryan Reynolds. That would have been an excellent cameo. They just to give it some extra DC connection.
How much do you want to see Ryan Reynolds come back in the Zack Snyder's Justice League?
Oh, I would love to see him play it, but it's so funny how much he rags on that movie.
Yeah.
There's obviously in Deadpool the reference to him, going back in time or whatever and killing himself before he takes that role. And I was watching an interview with him and Taika Waititi in terms of I think it was Free Guy, that new movie that he's in.
Okay, yeah.
Apparently Taika is in it as well.
Oh,
and they were talking. They did this little joke about how they both forgot about Green Lantern because Taika was actually in it as well as a minor role. Mm-hmm. And so they were acting like this was the first time they ever met. And then somebody else is like, wait a minute, but didn't you guys do a movie together? And they're like, no, what do you mean? No, this is the first time we met. We never did a movie. And they're like, yeah, the Green Lantern, right? And he said, Green Lantern? No. Oh, you know what? You're thinking of Green Hornet. No, I'm not Seth Rogen. And so he goes out of his way, it seems like, to just, he really like, I don't know, he's got that personality though too. Yeah. So how much of it is a joke versus how much is it that he maybe really just didn't, hated the movie, hated the whole experience, regrets the choice. And it wasn't a good movie. That's fair. But I can't imagine him turning down the opportunity to do it right, Yeah. Because he's still a cool superhero if you could still be the Green Lantern. Yeah. I'm sure he would jump at that opportunity, and what better way to kind of do that than to just throw him into the DC universe here that already exists and just, act like that movie never happened. He's kind of like the Hulk in a sense where everybody forgets about the Hulk. Like, oh, okay, that movie never happened, but the character's still here.
Right. And I think it will. I have a feeling that he'll show up because it's just like this. It's not a big commitment for him. So it's just like a couple of days on set and you get a big splash. Yeah,
especially for cameos. It's like, he's not necessarily going to, if he wanted, I'm sure he could get a standalone movie. And I imagine he probably would want that. I couldn't imagine him not wanting to be a superhero. But obviously he has Deadpool already and he's very busy. So it might just be, he's not able to. But I think if they could make it work with his schedule, I don't see any reason that he would, turn it down, especially given just the, how cool that would be. He just seems like the kind of person who would do something almost purely for a joke. He would commit to doing a whole feature film just as a joke. So I could see that happening.
I think he's going to come back a little while, probably die, and then like another Green Lantern will take over.
Yeah, that would be a good way to pass on the lantern.
That's what my money's on.
Yeah. So is there a lot of connection to Green Lantern or anyone else in the DC universe just in general to Shazam, or has Shazam always been kind of separate? Like, is he hang out with the Justice League and all of that?
I think he has a close tie to Superman, actually, in the comics and like throughout his history. So I think that that's the character he's most closely associated with.
Yeah. And so I mentioned, I didn't know really anything going into this movie. And I think that was kind of a plus. I wonder, if you knew kind of more what to expect, if it would still be as enjoyable. But going in kind of blind, it was a really wonderful surprise how good the movie turned out to be.
Yeah, same here. I did a lot of my research after I saw the movie. So when I first saw it, it was kind of
afterwards. You were like, "What the heck was that? Who is this guy?" Yeah, for me, so I think I mentioned this too when we were leaving. I was like, that wasn't at all what I thought Shazam was, because I had remembered. So I had heard later afterwards. I looked it up to figure out what was going on. I always thought that Shazam was a genie. And the reason being is that there's a cartoon genie called Shazam or something like that. Okay. Apparently. So this guy calls a genie, and the genie, is like a superhero or whatever. And I don't know what they do. I don't remember. I know I watched that cartoon a little bit when I was a kid. So I thought that was Shazam. And then I think part of the reason too is you probably heard of Kazam.
Yes, I was about to say that with Shaquille O'Neal.
Yeah, well, with Shaquille O'Neal. And so that's the other thing is that with Kazam has its own confusion, because apparently a lot of people think that there's a genie movie starring Sinbad.
Oh yeah, what is it, Sinbad? Yes.
And there wasn't. No. So that's the thing, is that for whatever reason, a lot of people have a memory of Sinbad playing a genie in a movie. Yeah. But Shaq played Kazam, a genie, in a movie. Okay. There is no Sinbad movie, but people think, and people are convinced that this happened, and it's a real thing. Like, it's you can go online and there's all these conspiracy theories about what it was and where it came from, and he apparently it never actually happened. But Kazam obviously sounds like Shazam as well, and then you combine that with Shazam or whatever however you pronounce that, the actual genie cartoon. So in my mind, when I heard Shazam, I was just thinking, okay, some kind of genie superhero. And so of course it wasn't anything like that, and so that was a surprise. But I didn't really know what Shazam was to begin with. That was just the only thing I could sort of remotely remember from my childhood about it.
Oh, that's awesome. I do remember the Shaq, the movie with Shaquille O'Neal. And he also played Steel. Do you remember that? The DC movie.
Shaq played Steel?
Yes.
No, I don't know this.
This was like in the 90s.
And the movie was called Steel?
Yes. Yeah.
I've not followed a lot of the Shaq filmography.
It's quite short. It won't take you very long.
Okay.
But the movie was.
I'm pretty sure I've seen Kazam, but I think that's where it ended for me.
Okay. Yeah, Steel was pretty bad too.
Yeah, but that was in the DC superhero world.
Yeah, I think it was meant to take place in like the Batman, like the Batman Forever kind of universe. It really had that kind of a feel to it, which I know you love.
Maybe Shaq will make an appearance alongside Ryan Reynolds then.
You never know. Anything is possible, really.
So do you have any favorite parts of the movie? Like anything that really stood out for you of Shazam?
I thought the part where he catches the bus was really cool.
The superhero moment?
Yeah. It's been a while, so I'm just trying to think of like the parts I remember.
The training montage was one of my favorites.
Oh, yeah, that was fun.
That relationship, too, with his sidekick character being, his kid friend. Mm-hmm. Obviously they're both kids and they're friends with each other, but then when he turns into Shazam, he's an adult. So you basically have this adult played by Zachary Levi.
Right.
This little kid hanging out. They had really good chemistry, and it was really funny to see the adult guy, that actor, Zachary Levi. He played that role so well. Like you really see there's really like this childlike quality to how he plays it.
Yeah, I think he did a really, really good job with that role.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me, it's sort of like a Chris Pratt situation, but like if you remove the kind of asshole quality, because like Chris Pratt, he's also very immature and childish, but he goes in that very, he kind of being a jerk and a narcissist route. Mm-hmm. Right. But with Shazam, that actor, he plays it a lot more genuine, a lot more heroic, and so it's kind of a similar situation. I think those two, especially considering those two actors both came from comedy. Yeah, that's another interesting kind of parallel there. Is that he played Chuck back in the day. Basically a nerdy character on a TV show. Even though it was action oriented and he was kind of a superhero kind of character in that, fighting crime or whatever. Right. But himself, the actor was nerdy, scrawny, and that was a lot of like the butt of the jokes in the show. And then since then he's gone on to be a superhero and bulk up like a superhero. And same with Chris Pratt, where he was just this pudgy comic relief character on Parks and Recreation, this kind of loser character. And then same thing with him. He goes off to be a superhero.
Yeah, that transformation was insane. Like if you see Chris Pratt in like the first season of Parks and Recreation, it's like it's a 180.
It's like, how is this possible?
Yeah, it's incredible.
You never see that guy riding motorcycles with velociraptors.
Right? No, not at all. You can see him pass out on the couch with like a bottle of Cheese Whiz though, easily.
Yeah. So in terms of what's next for Shazam, do we have any information on potential sequels or anything like that?
Yeah, so there's nothing concrete, but there's a lot of talk. So there might be a direct sequel. There might be a streaming series on HBO Max. Mm-hmm. And there's also Black Adam, which is actually one of Shazam's villains, who's actually going to be played by The Rock. And so that one has been dated. It's coming out, I think, December 2022, if I'm not mistaken.
That would be like a straight sequel to the movie?
Well, that'll be like a spin-off. Because I don't know if it'll be like in that world, kind of adjacent to Shazam. I don't know if the same characters will be there.
It seems like there's probably a lot that they could do with the world, especially considering this movie, it again, we're getting into spoilers probably, but the movie turns out to be more of an ensemble superhero movie, at least for the climactic ending. Right. But you have all these little kids that are there as part of the foster family, and the majority of the movie is really about Shazam and him getting his superpowers and figuring all of that out. But then by the end, he recruits his foster family to join up with him as other Shazams. I don't know. Are they also Shazam? I guess his name's not Shazam though, right? Like isn't that the thing?
That's true.
His name is something else, but Shazam is the word he says.
You know what his name is?
Is it Doug?
No, it's actually Captain Marvel.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. Now I remember where this all comes from. Yeah. So that's Captain Marvel. I remember I had I think it was a Mortal Kombat versus DC game, video game or something. And one of the characters on it was Captain Marvel. And he was, this guy in a big red suit, and he would say, I guess he would say Shazam, and then the electricity would zap out or something.
Yep.
So that's what I had in mind as who Captain Marvel was. So then whenever the MCU actually comes out with Captain Marvel, I was like, wait, what? Captain Marvel's a Marvel property? And she's this fiery flying woman? This is not what I thought Captain Marvel was.
Right.
And it turns out, that was Shazam. So he's Captain Marvel.
Right. Correct.
The word he says is Shazam, right? And that's how he turns into a boy. Do the other kids also say Shazam, or do they say their own words? Do they have a unique word?
I think they also say Shazam.
Okay, so Shazam is the magic word that turns you into a superhero. He's Captain Marvel. The kid's name is just a normal kid. I forget what his name was.
Billy Baxton.
Billy. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, so Billy turns into Captain Marvel. Now, they didn't really do that in the movie, though, right? Did they refer to him as Captain Marvel at all because of the whole Captain Marvel thing, probably?
Yeah, because they're legally not allowed to call him Captain Marvel anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So the history is that Captain Marvel was a comic book back in the 1930s, and is very popular until about the 1950s. And then at that point, they sold the name, or whoever created Captain Marvel sold the property to DC, and then DC kind of got rid of it. At that point, he wasn't popular anymore. The series was canceled, so they let go of that copyright. And then so later Marvel bought it up, and now Marvel owns it.
So are these two Captain Marvels sort of the same origin, or is it just the name?
Oh no, it's just the name. Like the story that you saw in the movie is the origin story, but of Shazam.
The Marvel Captain Marvel, other than the name that they got from the DC Captain Marvel.
No, it's just the name. Like the stories are two separate things. It's just they happen to have the same name.
So do we know what they're calling him now? I guess at some point when they lost this copyright, did they update the name of the Shazam character to something else? Is he now Captain DC?
I think they just call him Shazam.
They just call him Shazam?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would look in the credits, I guess, and see if he's credited as something, right?
It says here, Captain Marvel, also known as Shazam.
But then that is weird because then you have these other kids who also say Shazam, and they turn into superheroes. So then are their superheroes also named Shazam? So then you have Shazam. Hey, Shazam, can you take care of that one? Sure, Shazam, I'll take care of it. Look out behind you, Shazam. And they all turn around.
Yeah, that could be very confusing. See, this is why they're not getting a sequel. It's too confusing.
But I did like all the kids coming together and fighting there, and having these other Shazams out there. So I would like to see a sequel that focuses more on them as a family of superheroes, basically. But I do think they got to clear up that confusion. They need to give them all actual names.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, they were all different. Their costumes were all different colors, right?
Yeah, but I think they all have the same power, right?
Yeah, they just all become very strong
because there's some sort of council of wizards or something. Yeah, I don't know. They could really flesh out the lore, I guess. You're supposed to. I guess if you read the comics, then you know more what's going on. But in the movie, it didn't really get much into the backstory or the lore there. You had the creepy wizard guy that gives him his powers and tells him to say how to say Shazam, and then he eventually passes that on to his kids or his siblings, and then they take it from there. But I couldn't really tell you what his powers are, to be honest. He can fly, and there's something, obviously he has a lightning bolt on his suit, but I don't really know what his. He can zap things. I don't really remember.
Yeah, he can zap things, and he's really strong.
He's really strong. He can deflect bullets like Superman, right?
Right.
Because there's a scene where he gets shot or something, right? they're robbing or not robbing, but I guess they're stopping a robbery. And yeah, so he can. That was kind of that was a lot. That was a big scene for, I think, a family friendly movie though, right? Like he's like, we got to test whether you're bulletproof or not. He doesn't know, and he just basically gets shot. And I can see that's not a good message to give to kids. Is like, you think you might be bulletproof? Well, you got to test it. So that might have been a bit dangerous on DC's part, but yeah. So he's bulletproof. He can fly. He can zap things with electricity. He can charge cell phones.
That's right. That's a really good power.
Yeah, especially in these times, with everyone having cell phones. So in a way, I guess the old Shazam comics were prophetic, right? Because he had this superpower that wasn't all that useful, I guess, at the time. But now the whole world.
1939.
Yeah. The people were like, electricity. What do you need that for?
That's a good point.
And now he's like, everything runs on electricity, and you never know when you're going to be away from an outlet and need a charge.
Yeah, it's true.
Is there anything can he shoot anything out of his eyes or do anything X-ray vision? Anything
I don't remember that being the case.
I didn't see anything like that in the movie, but I don't know his powers behind the scenes. I just remember from the game that I had played, I think the move that he had was basically he says Shazam, and then like a thunderbolt comes out from the sky and zaps the other person. Superman was also in that game, and I think they probably had some kind of intro about it, about how they like weakened him, because they have to like make it so that Superman and Sub-Zero can fight and have them be equals, basically. Okay. And so because Superman is like so overpowered compared to anyone else, they had some kind of storyline in the like the opening sequence of the game where, like, I don't know, Raiden or whoever the gods of Mortal Kombat are, they like dampen Superman's powers a bit.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Just to make it a fair fight, I guess. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was a fun game though. It was weird to see the DC superheroes being so violent. Not that they had fatalities. I think they even specifically had no fatalities for the DC heroes. I forget what they called their special like finishing move. They did have a finishing move of some kind, but other than just being like extra harmful or whatever, they didn't murder their opponents. But I do think you could murder them, maybe, because I think the Mortal Kombat people had fatalities still, unless they took it out of the game entirely. But I don't know. I'll have to check and see, because I got to go see if Scorpion is beheading Superman in this game or what.
Yeah, I don't think that'll get the legal approval necessary.
Yeah, it seems like DC wouldn't sign on if you could violently murder their superheroes. But I do remember that I was thinking that the no fatality rule only applied to the DC characters, because I remember they had something else that was like a fatality, but it was called something different. I gotta look this game up. It's a good kind of old game to check out again. But we're getting off the topic of Shazam a bit, although that was probably my first real introduction to the character. But he was Captain Marvel at that point.
One interesting tangent about like the future of the franchise is that you got to look at Henry Cavill's new contract with DC, and he signed on to play like large cameos in other people's movies. So he hasn't signed on for a Man of Steel 2 or like another Justice League movie, but he has signed on to like appear in other people's movies. So he's going to be like a Nick Fury or a Hulk kind of a character.
A Tony Stark.
No, because he's not going to be like the focus. He's just going to show up. He's going to be more like the Hulk or like a Nick Fury in the background of other people's movies.
Yeah. Well, that's how like Tony Stark is in the Spider-Man movie, He's there to say like, I'm Iron Man. I'm in charge of everything, but this isn't my movie. Here you go.
Right.
Here's some glasses, kid.
Yeah.
So he's going to be that kind of role. He's like, yes, I lead the Justice League, but I'm not going to handle this myself.
Right.
You take it, Green Lantern.
So, yeah, exactly. Like he would fit in that kind of a role. Like in a Shazam sequel is kind of like the best kind of a place you could put him where it would make the most sense.
I don't know. It seems weird. Like we could have a whole episode on Superman sometime, but it's strange to me that he's so powerful It's kind of like the Captain Marvel problem too. At least the MCU had the kind of foresight to send her off to fight cosmic injustice or something. So you write her out. Okay, there's a reason she's not here to save the day all the time. But you have someone like Superman, assuming he's sticking around for to be part of the Justice League, and he's still interested in earthly affairs. Why isn't he stopping all the crime and saving the day? Instead, we have to let Aquaman take care of it, and maybe, I don't know, Cyborg or some other people. So it seems weird that you either need to have a Superman who is a real participant, or just don't have Superman, because Superman's character, he's not a Nick Fury, he's not an administrator, right. So it doesn't really make sense for him to be in that kind of role, a small kind of minor role. But yeah, with Shazam, it's fine. I like how he was treated in this movie. It would have been nice, I guess, if they had the actual Superman for the cameo. Maybe they can reshoot that sometime and put it in the director's cut. But I did like how Shazam is sort of taking place in that world. They know that Superman's out there, but they don't work with Superman. They're not on Superman's team. They're just handling their own little problems in this community.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, I don't think DC thinks they can sell a Superman movie, but putting him in another franchise kind of elevates that franchise and makes it more exciting. So it's like,
which is weird, because Superman is their big property. Batman, I guess, has been more marketable over time. But if you want to promote Superman, and you want people to watch a Superman movie, just make a good Superman movie. I think the problem is that they haven't done that yet. Shazam too also seems like that was more what I would have expected in terms of tone for a Superman movie. It's maybe a little too much on the humor and kind of the for kids element. Yeah. But in terms of the colors, especially whenever at the end when they're all wearing their bright, colorful suits of different colors. Yeah. But just how it took place during the day, he had a very human problems of his own as a kid, and with his foster family. And to me, that's also part of the Superman story, is being Clark Kent, and his relationship with Lois Lane and his job at the newspaper place and all of that. So that's always seemed to be missing in all of these movies, is that I think Shazam was almost a better Superman than Superman has been.
Yeah, I agree. Like, they need to figure that out. I think the problem is they don't know how to do it in like a new way or an interesting way, or they just they kind of ruined it already, and they keep doubling down, like they can't write themselves backwards, I guess. And even in terms of like the message of hope, like this kid, he's a kid, so maybe he's naive, but he's certainly idealistic, hopeful, and that's the Shazam personality is really what I would have expected more from a Superman kind of character. Like every time I see Superman, he just seems like depressed, and he's just like, who cares? Like, why are we saving the world? What is it all for? We're all gonna die anyway. And so, like, if that cameo at the end where Superman shows up at the to meet that kid at school, in reality, if it really was Henry Cavill's Superman, that would have been a terrible meeting, because the kid would show up, and the kid would be like so cool and happy to see Superman, and he'd be like, wow, here's Superman, I told you we're best friends, right? And he'd be like, no, kid, why would I be friends with anyone? There's no point, we're all dead. What about Martha? Do you ever think of that? And like, I can't imagine DC's current version of Superman being someone who kids would want to look up to, or who would even be a good role model for kids. Wow. But Shazam, on the other hand, I think he did hit that mark. So I think it's an interesting kind of irony there. Yeah, that says a lot, and kind of says a lot to like how much they've kind of strayed from where they should be, or like what the true essence of the character was supposed to be. Yeah, they've changed him so much that he's not who he was.
And there's really no reason, I don't think, that they can go back. They won't, is the problem. But if they wanted to do another Superman movie, all they'd have to do is just give him a reason to live. Superman right now, he's just too depressed. He's already discovered, he and Batman put away their Martha issues, right? In the last movie. Right. Now he has friends. He has Batman. He has Wonder Woman. Maybe he has Aquaman. Have Lois Lane come and show him the joy of life and living, and just let him actually enjoy being a human. True. And then that can give him the motivation to now be a good person. It's like they're sort of like have the beginnings of an origin story with him, but they just never took it to the second act. It's like he starts off tragic and then nothing ever changes. And all you need is, give him something that changes his worldview and just pulls him out of his funk so he can be a hero.
Oh, totally.
And until they do that, you have this weird Superman who's not a hero. And until then, I think they should just, fire Superman, promote Shazam. He's got all those other Shazams that can still, hang around the neighborhood doing Shazam business. So promote Captain Marvel Shazam to Superman and put him on the Justice League.
Oh, that makes sense, actually. Because he kind of fits tonally with, like, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and, like, some of the other characters who are a lot lighter and more fun.
Yeah, I would love to see them together. I think Shazam and Wonder Woman in particular, just because they both have a interesting kind of naive look at the world, because obviously Wonder Woman has been sheltered all her life on this other island and she doesn't know anything about the real world. And then Shazam, obviously he's a kid, and then also the dynamic obviously of a little boy meeting Wonder Woman and trying to have a conversation, because he already had that kind of issue with, I think, the kind of the romantic interest there. He's shy around girls, just like probably any young boy would be. And so to put him now where he's got to not only engage with a girl, but the girl is this world famous superhero. That would be funny too. Yeah. And Aquaman would be great with that too, because he's this guy who's just this awesome kind of surfer dude that he totally knows how to relate to kids. Like he'd pick on them, he'd tease them, but he'd love the kids still. So it's all in good nature. So like they would make a great team, I think.
Yeah, actually, that's a really great idea.
Batman, on the other hand,
how would he fit?
Well, he would look at him and be like, "Oh, great, another orphan. I got to compete with this." So it's just going to remind him of his own his own problems. So I feel like if Shazam came on the team, Batman would go off. He'd have to leave. He'd be like, "Okay, I'm done. I'm going to go back to my cave and be lonely for a while," which is fine, because nobody likes Ben Affleck.
Well, I don't think Ben Affleck's coming back ever.
Yeah, true, but that could be a good way of explaining it away. Is just Shazam comes on board, Ben Affleck gets sad. He can't be reminded of being an orphan. He doesn't want to be around another orphan, and so he just goes into his cave and retires.
Oh, speaking of Batman, there was this like new rumor out that they're gonna make a Batman Beyond movie with Michael Keaton as like an older Bruce Wayne. And then, instead of Terry McGinnis, it's going to be like a Batgirl, or like there's going to be like a girl in that role. Yeah, and it's going to take place in the future, which is now. But it's going to be in the Tim Burton universe.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and it's going to tie into the Flash movie somehow.
Well, that's probably less cool. But somehow it's going to be time travel, because that's and like alternate dimensions and all of that. To me, it seems like that's what the only purpose of Flash. Like, it's weird to me that Flash, we don't even know anything about him yet, but it seems like DC's only understanding of Flash is that we can use him to flip around to different dimensions and timelines and everything. So then that gives them kind of freedom to do whatever they want.
Fix their continuity.
Yeah, they need to really do a Flash movie and actually kind of establish that character, but I feel like it's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, they are doing it, but it's like they've written that script like 20 times at this point.
Yeah, it's going to be a Green Lantern situation. There's no way to make Flash. I don't think it's hard to make a good Flash movie, I think, in general, but also just given DC how they are these days, it's going to be tough. So maybe it is best just to leave him as a literary device. Don't explain him too much. Don't give him his own movie. Just when you need time travel, just say, "Oh, Flash did it."
Yeah.
And that's all you have to worry about.
Right.
So I do think, though, if they were to do a sequel, I guess they're working on it, maybe a sequel to Shazam, what they should do is get Sinbad to come and play a genie.
Oh, that'd be so great.
And he can be the villain of the Shazam too.
Oh, that would be perfect.
And then that would totally just blow everyone's minds, because Kazam is what they think of as Sinbad, and so for now Sinbad to be in Shazam too, finally playing a genie. Yeah, I think that would finally solve that great mystery.
Oh yeah, totally, dude. That's such a great idea. Everyone will be like, I thought I saw this movie before.
Yeah, and then I think people would just start to realize that it was just the future was somehow leaking into the past, and that was the issue. Maybe Flash was up to something.
Oh yeah.
So it all it all ties together.
Yeah. As we're talking here, I just Googled Sinbad genie, and it says it here. Like, just like you said, it's a small vocal number of people, however, claim to have seen an earlier film called Shazam starring Sinbad as the genie instead. But it's a 1996 children's comedy film called Kazam, featuring Shaquille O'Neal as a wish-granting genie.
Yeah, it's so weird. This is the weirdest thing. And if you dig into it further, you just find more craziness. People are really convinced of this, that this was a thing. And that's why I think it's important that maybe we make it a thing for them, somebody at some point. Plus Sinbad, he hasn't been doing much these days. I think he needs the work.
He does, yes, absolutely.
He was doing some great stuff back in the days. He was Jingle All the Way.
Oh, classic.
Doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah.
And he was already a superhero villain in that, so he's got the experience.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
We're going to have to start a petition, get Sinbad to play a genie villain in Shazam.
I think that we'll get a small but vocal support.
Yeah. And then otherwise, I guess, we'll just look forward to everything else that they do with Shazam. Hopefully this isn't going to be a property that DC drops the ball on, because I think they finally got something pretty good on their hands, and certainly feels more like a superhero movie should.
Yeah.
And like I was saying, it works well. It would work well with Wonder Woman and some of their other more successful properties, even though it's a big change in tone from the Batman Superman side of things.
Yeah, that's true. And like box office wise, it did about the same as the first Ant-Man did. So that got a sequel and maybe even a third installment. So
yeah. So why do you think people aren't talking about it much?
That's a good question.
It was well received, right? It was well received. It had pretty decent box office numbers. We really liked it, but even us, I guess, we don't talk about it too much. So it's weird that this movie isn't bigger for some reason.
It might be because it doesn't have like that like iconic, like the character isn't as well known as some of the other characters, and it didn't really like we were saying earlier, it didn't really like connect with the other movies as an integral component. Like, he's not part of the Justice League, or he doesn't show up in Avengers Endgame.
Yeah, he's kind of his own thing. He doesn't get that boost from really being part of the whole DCEU.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But Marvel hasn't had an issue with that too. It seems like maybe I guess Ant-Man to some extent, but they've done a pretty good job of kicking out other franchises out there and then rolling them up in the big MCU umbrella, and they do well as a result of that. So I'd like to see the same for Shazam. I hope it is successful one way or the other. I think obviously the actors involved are all really good, and it was a fun movie. So I think it can kind of save the direction there.
Yeah, I think so. I think that Marvel, the thing they did was like they stuck their name on everything, so like everything is kind of branded. It's like that started with the Avengers. They even titled it Marvel's The Avengers, and then that kind of put that association in people's minds, and they've benefited greatly from that kind of branding. Yeah,
and that's what I was saying too with Shazam. Like, aside from the fact that they didn't get Henry Cavill in the cameo there, even the marketing and everything else, it didn't seem like it was DC. There was nothing to really tie it into that world, or even just the fact that it was a real superhero movie, which is what you sort of need to do. And I put real in air quotes there, just because obviously there are a lot of real superheroes that aren't owned by DC or Marvel. But the public, in the public's mind, if you're a superhero, you're probably owned by Marvel or DC. It leads some credibility there.
Yeah.
And if you're pitching this movie as, we're not Marvel and we're not DC, then people are going to be like, why would I go see an independent superhero movie?
Right.
And it had that feel to it in terms of marketing, just because they didn't really claim it as one of their own, it seemed like.
Right. And you're right. I think they should, like, for any sequels, I think they should definitely focus on that.
Yeah. I think DC, though, has a harder challenge, though, because their name is literally just two letters. Do you know what the D and the C stand for? I thought the C might be comics, but...
So It's either District
but
Comics.
they call it DC Comics.
Or
So then it's District Comics.
Oh, that's a good point. Or Detective Comics.
It's like an ATM machine.
Or is the distinguished competition, right?
So are you just making guesses, or is there just really no answer to this?
You know what? I'm gonna look this up right now. Like, I can't believe we don't know this.
Because I think that's the problem, is that, you know, DC, it's just a couple initials, and Marvel sounds so much cooler as a name. So you put Marvel's Avengers, or Marvel's Endgame, whatever it is. You know, it sounds better. But you can't say, you know, DC's Shazam. Then it's like, oh, what is this? You know, political? Why is Shazam hanging out in DC?
Well, actually, so it says here, the initials DC came from the company's popular series Detective Comics, which featured Batman's debut and subsequently became part of the company's name.
All right. Well, then I would recommend changing the name. I think DC, that's the secret to success. They need a better name.
Detective Comics.
And really, right now, people call it DC Comics. You know, when you refer to the comic books, it's DC Comics, which now I guess means Detective Comics. So they got to fix that.
Yeah.
But I do think Shazam is the answer for this DC. Maybe they can rename DC Shazam and then rename him Captain Shazam.
See, there you go.
Give the other Shazams their own name. Maybe one of them is Captain Detective Comics or something. But Shazam is a pretty good name, so maybe they should go with that, and then it can just be, you know, Shazam's Justice League.
Ooh, that sounds cool.
It does sound cool. And then you know, it's a perfect catchphrase too, because like he literally says Shazam and lightning strikes and he turns into an adult. So like, you know, it's a very powerful word.
There's your logo.
It's like the whole premise of the movie.
Yeah. There's your introductory logo too.
Yeah, and I don't think we spoiled too much. So anyone who's listening who hasn't seen Shazam yet should definitely go and watch it. Yeah. And I don't think we spoiled it for them. So you know, they should still find it pretty enjoyable. Yeah. And I think even if you know spoilers, it should still be a lot of fun because it is just a really fun, enjoyable, humorous movie.
Yeah, I think so too. Definitely go watch it and then tweet us afterwards.
Yeah, tweet us, let us know on Facebook or whatever else. And then I guess tell us what other random magic or genie related superhero movie we should talk about next.
And what magically you thought you saw 20 years ago.
Yeah, and was it Shaq or Sinbad?
Yeah.
Let us know.
Vote down below. We'll put up a Twitter poll to figure out who was really in this movie.
Who was the real genie?
Yeah, who do you remember as being the genie?